Welcome to CATtheMinion energy work. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. This is an astrology tarot periodical. This is a yin-yang relationship reading. I created it for romantic relationships, but this doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could be an either or a little bit of both. Usually when I read, I get a template and whatever fits for you in your situation within the confines of that template is what it is. So it can vary from person to person, but it's going to follow a certain pattern. A bunch of people doing a color by number or one of those like drinking and painting evenings. It's going to be a little different for everybody, and someone might be a little bit like more different than average, right? We got a bell curve here. But it's not going to be like, oh, it's these 18 different signs, but maybe you're this, maybe you're in this country, maybe you're in that city, maybe it's one of 25 different names. We're looking at a pattern of energy flow. So if your situation doesn't involve this energy flow, then it's either not for you or it's not for you right now. And it's fine, because there's 42 other sets of astrology tarot periodical that you can watch on my channel, a bunch of love readings and some other stuff. So we're not that worried about that. It's either for you or not for you, and no big whoop if it's not. And you might still find some interesting information. You're like, oh, I never looked at this situation that way before, even though this isn't what I'm doing right now. So watch it, don't watch it, but, like, share, subscribe, and do all the helpy stuff if you want to. And I also do personal readings. So, I did these in pairs, picked by the pendulum. So we've got Leo and Sagittarius, we've got spy versus spy here, fire versus fire. So, we have crossover points here. Normally this is one layer. This time I ended up being 2 layers because that's how it worked. So we have a top layer, which is sort of the surface element of what's going on between these two energies related to the full moon, and then we have a layer of cards underneath, which is going to be like, what's the hidden part, what's being secreted, what's being illuminated, what's been ignored, swept under the rug, what skeletons are in your closet, what's hiding under the floorboards that hasn't been addressed. What part of you do you pretend isn't you, but you really need to integrate? You gotta have integrity. Normally the center crossover points, where the Sagittarius deck is for Leo and the Leo deck is for Sagittarius, is the bottom of the deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the bottom cards off the decks so that they're not in the way as much and the board can be seen better. So Leo and Sagittarius, 2 of the fire signs, which happen to be in my chart quite prominently. So I'm probably going to get a little bit of a kick in the ass from this reading, which is fine. Sometimes we need a little boot in the toot. I'm going to turn these undercards over. Usually when I do the bottom of the deck, I just flip it over. Oh, you know why these seem so similar? I was like, wow, this is a Cairo Marchetti deck, the Gilded Reverie Lenormand. And this is a Cairo Marchetti deck, the Legacy of the Divine Tarot, so the artwork's going to be very similar. I'm like, how come it's the same, but it's smaller? Put this away for a minuet. It looks like a little teeny book. It's adorable. I just want to eat its little face. I do want to point out that if you see breaks, obvious breaks, it's because I'm either coughing, thirsty, blowing my nose, or someone else in the house is making too much noise for a second. Vehicles going by and so on. My fingernails look dirty, especially on my left hand, because I have marker all up in there that has not come out yet. I was cutting up some scrap fabric into little pattern pieces for more cat plushies, and the washable marker got everywhere. mostly on my hand. So we're going to start with his reading. And again, if this doesn't work for you, everybody sort of encounters all the energies at one point because each sign rules one of your horoscope houses. I haven't learned that much enough about that yet, but what I'm saying is that we all pass through these energies, whether or not you have it in your chart. And most people have most of the signs in their chart. You might be missing a couple of them. So yeah, and if this reading isn't really doing it for you and you're like, that doesn't feel like my stuff, you've got 5 other templates with the other signs to choose from for the full moon here in February of 2024, which is just the timestamp for when it comes out and what the overall system is doing. But it's basically whenever you find it, you know, a week from now, 8 months from now, 5 years from now, whenever. Time is a construct of meat space, and all time is happening now. Past lives are concurrent, and future lives are concurrent. So, I'm going to look at... I'm trying to think of... Aries is earthy. Sagittarius is airy, and Leo is moist. I think that's how it works. We're going to do Leo first. So, after we look at the crossover, though. So, what I have here is the Hanged Man inverted. The Hanged Man inverted. I'm free... Oh, I just heard Free Fallin' by Tom Petty. Free fallin'. He's in 0 gravity. Isn't there some song called Defying Gravity? Whatever, I don't know who sings that. I don't listen to modern stuff that much. I'm kind of floating. I'm in mid-tumble, right? I'm doing the fancy backflips while I'm cliff diving. But it's... which would be the Fool. But the Hangman is sort of, it's related to the Knights for me. When the Hangman is inverted, it gives me the Knight upright energy. And when the Knight is inverted, it tells me I'm hung up. But the difference is that the Knights have blended energy of the signs. And the Hanged Man has Neptunian, Piscean water energy. So the crossover energy from Sagittarius is giving us this damp energy from Leo. Now, Pisces traditionally rules the moon card, which makes no sense to me, because in my opinion, Pisces should rule the High Priestess, and the moon should be the moon. Like, what the hell? But in general, all of the water signs, the water cards, you have this whatever is not usually seen. For me, Pisces energy is the body of the ocean, right? The watery, deep, in over your head, big time water feelings kind of energy. You know, where whales can transmit their song like thousands of miles or kilometers depending on your system. So we have these sort of long, ultra low frequency, long wave communications. Like I'm picking something up from the Andromeda galaxy or whatever. Moon energy is sort of like inside the body energy. Like, I gotta pay. Or like, it's Shark Week and I need some Tampax. Or it's like my personal Wi-Fi. Right? I'm like my psychic intuition. What moves my waters is my heart center. So that's sort of internal to the body. And Neptune is more long range. And then, which is Pisces. And the moon Cancer. And then with the Scorpio water, you have the deep. Like, I have to go deeper. It's the deep underground water, you know, that you'd find like inside the continental shelves or the Marianas Trench, right? The very deepest part of the ocean. And it comes into this water so deep, you're in the underground caverns where the god Pluto is. And even though his lands Tartarus had a river of fire because of the liquid hot magma, you're still dealing with the underground water, right? There's something flowing in there. You know, he's got to have something to drink with those pomegranate seeds that he was feeding his, was it unwilling bride there. Okay, so just the differences of the water and why we have the hanged man instead of a knight. Right? It's like I can't hear you versus I'm hearing the entire whale song at this point. Like, the message is loud as fuck. You know, the cup of water is jiggling from the T-Rex walking next to it. The crossover from Leo into Sagittarius is this mask card. 40 for me, which gives like 4 times 10, like the Emperor times the wheel, or 10 emperors, which could be like an ancestral chain of like an ancestral curse, or like a hereditary defect or something, you know, like well, I mean, essentially like any kind of physical change, like it could be a mutation. Like any kind of physical change in the DNA has to do with some kind of corresponding spiritual hang-up, right? We might be dealing with affluenza, but it can, like, and it can also be 4 wheels, right? Baby, you can drive my car. You know, whether you want the original Beatles or the Bobby McFerrin. It could also be 2 judgments. Right, like I failed the class the first time and now I have to do it over. 5 times 4 is 20, but then you have it twice. So there's this idea of repetition no matter what you're doing, right? Because 4 times 5 would be the Hierophant times the Emperor times 2, the High Priestess. It's giving this idea of different elements coming together, repeating patterns. But the idea of the mask is that I'm hiding something. I'm putting up a front. And then notice the mask, we have the sun and the moon, which is what happens with a full moon. And I'm not surprised to see that. We're going to take a look and see what Leo's energy is that's visible on the surface, which is going to be this top layer of cards. So we have the cage, gilded cage, which relates to the 8 of Pentacles. Virgo? I think it's Virgo. The sun in Virgo. Okay, so Leo is dealing possibly with inner child wounding. It could also be just immaturity in general. It reminds me of the Man in the Iron Mask. 1998. There's older versions. But we have the... It's kind of like... what's it called? The Prince and the Pauper, except that they're twin brothers. And one of them has been shuffled off. So when the Leo, the king, doesn't want his brother to usurp his throne, he puts him in the mask and hides him in a cage because of this sort of immature dominant energy. But the message coming through is saying this isn't going to stand. We have 33 here. I was going to say thrice 11. Right, so we're going through like we're hitting another, like we're hitting like 3 possible checkpoints of universal timing. I'm seeing similar numbers and energies as in the Virgo and Libra reading, and I think it just has to do with what the full moon is doing or where the full moon is. I didn't even check to see what sign it's in. It might be Leo. I don't even know. It doesn't matter. We're still getting the energy. So we're looking at Leo some more. So we have the Fox, number 14, related to 9 of Wands. And 14 and 9 also came up in the Virgo Libra reading. This is the Fox. This is really similar to the moon in Aquarius energy in a regular tarot with the thief in the night kind of energy. I'm trying to take something. 9 of Wands is like, how long do I have to stand guard? When it's like, I look away for 1 second and somebody's taking my shit. You know, it's like that parody on the Liam Neeson movies. It's like, why is everyone always taking my shit? And we see that with that man in the iron mask energy of someone's trying to usurp my authority. Like, respect my authority. But it's like something is trying to pull you out of authority. But if looking at this mask, we see that the authority might be bogus to begin with. There's an idea of immaturity, or I've ascended to authority by means of theft in some way. You know, and it might not... It makes it sound like Leo is kind of a douchebag. But it's kind of like it's not necessarily like you made up something to make someone else look bad so you could steal their job. It's more like you insisted that this thing in life was yours by forcing your way in there, by trying to pull a fast one on the universe, when you should have been focusing on what was right and in alignment for you. Just because someone else gets something that you thought you had to have or wanted doesn't mean that they're taking something that's yours. You might be in a parallel trajectory where you might end up doing something similar. Right? It's like, I wanted to be the boss of production, but you might end up being the boss of research and development instead. And you didn't know that that's what you were supposed to do. So you fought to get development, and the other person got like the short end of the shit stick. So this is what I'm talking about. It's sort of, it's not necessarily malicious intent to steal. Even though that can be part of the pattern. I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be. It's saying, I wanted to take something that I thought I needed for me without really understanding long range consequences, or receiving feedback that confirmed it. You know, it's like, I wanted this specific car, I had to get this car, I passed up on reliable options, and I insisted on getting this model, and then immediately got T-boned when I left the lot. And now I have a crushed pelvis and a broken arm. When if I had gone to this other dealership that was offering me something that was practical but not as exciting, I wouldn't have been in this town when that person was drinking and ran a red light. It's those kinds of things that we're talking about here. And I could say that it would be a typical event for distorted Leo energy, where Leo is sort of like, I'm shiny, pay attention to me. And it's like, if I don't get what makes me feel shiny, then I'm going to stamp my little fuzzy feet about it. And this is sort of the toxic side of immature Leo energy. You know, it's, I would say, a less toxic side of Leo immature energy would be like, nobody wants to play with me, I'm really sad. So let's look at this other card here. The Tree of Life. In the challenge position, with the Seven of Cups energy also being challenged. Now I have a 5 here. Where did I have a 14? I had a 14 here. That breaks down to 5. And I already talked about some kind of hereditary or DNA trauma or family curse. Now I said 7 of Swords was similar to what I was seeing to this, the Moon in Aquarius, which is that thief in the night kind of energy. The 7 of Cups is kind of the opposite of that, but it's coming in the challenge position. But the 7 of Cups carries the energy of traditionally Venus in Scorpio, although I did reassign it Uranus energy, which would take it back to Aquarius. So we're going from this idea of Aquarius energy interacting with the moon and the internal, like, I feel jilted, I want, to Moon and Scorpio energy, where I really need to go deeper if I want my tree to flourish, right? And it might not be, like, you might not even have any kids, but you don't want to energetically bequeath this pattern to someone down the line, right? Any person younger than you that you might interact with can pick up this pattern. Leo is sort of the curse breaker. This is sort of your inheritance, is kind of an I, me, mine energy that's dealing with shadow ego imprinted on the inner child. So let's look at Sagittarius. So with Sagittarius, we have this crossover energy of the Mask. And the Mask is Major Arcana. It's an extra card in this Lenormand. So it goes into that. It's not a specific suit, which is why I was talking about different permutations of Major Arcana. And it can also be 8 times 5, which would be the Hierophant times Strength or Justice. I'm trying to achieve some kind of connection between the spiritual and the material world, which is also what was coming up in the Virgo Libra reading. So I think this whole full moon in general is about the connection between the material and the spiritual, and what's kind of blocking that long wave connection. Right, so Sagittarius, the Emperor inverted. I'm not surprised to see this, because it's reflected in this card. You know, it can be tyrant energy, but it can also be shirking responsibilities. It's kind of, well, I have it in, I think it's in my 8 of Pentacles in my music deck, but the song Teacher by Jethro Tull, the plot of the song is that the teacher isn't paying attention to me and I'm the one doing all the work. like Sagittarius, like I've got a mask on to hide that I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. The hat I got for Christmas is too big. Seven of coins. So this kind of counteracts this 7 down here. This is, it's a patience card, but it's also a timing card. I have to wait for the harvest to grow. And we have, is that Virgo? It's not, it's Leo. No, it's Taurus. Saturn and Taurus energy. Right? I'm not having any fun. Like, toodaloo. Like, I'm waiting for my ships to come in, I'm waiting for my chips to come in so I can put my feet up and snack on my goddamn Doritos. 7 has to do a little bit with movement, and it's sort of like the movement is imperceptible. What the effing F is taking too long, and we see in this idea of, like, who's running this ship? Like, is anything even happening? Versus, give me what I want. And we have the King of Swords. So here's another 14. And we have the air up there. Capricorn and Aquarius energy. So we're seeing Aquarius energy again. And I'm not surprised to see that because we got Pluto in Aquarius, and that ties in that scorpionic need to go deeper. But this is like, I'm hearing Madonna express yourself in my ears in the Truth or Dare tour. And it's like, Sagittarius is trying to speak up about this. It's like I'm caught in a figurehead position, but I don't have any real power. Who's running this bullshit? And Leo is like all the power, but none of the responsibility. And we see why these two things are two ends of the spectrum that are tied together right now. I think that gives a pretty good summary of what's going on just on the surface. Like, what's going on in the easily noticeable meat space of the situation. Now we're going to look at the second layer of cards, which is going to be what is being illuminated during the full moon. What's the secrets? What's the fears? What's being kept hidden? What's not being addressed? What part of my self am I trying to not recognize as me? So we'll look at the center cards again. First, the crossover from Sagittarius to Leo is the Adept of Orbs, which is the Knight of Swords. So I have Knight energy backed by Knight energy. And that's in the same suit as this over here. Is the King. So my Adept, my Knight of Swords, has Taurus and Gemini energy. So I did see some Taurus energy over here with that, and it's trying to, like, I'm trying to speak on the movement of the plants, but I'm imagining running around all over the place, right? So it's like I'm responding to the idea of who's running this. Deep underneath, I feel like I have less power than I want to. Which is kind of where we were with Leo anyway, but this is sort of an admission of it. Okay, and then we have the Jack of Clubs here for the crossover from Leo to Sagittarius. Now, this case, the Jack can be a page or a knight. Sometimes it falls between. For me, though, this is a knight because it matches the other knight right here. So we have the Fire Knight versus the Sword Knight. I'm just trying trying to remember what the pages are called in this deck. Hold on. It's like initiate or something. Give me a second to find one, because I can't remember. Oh, it's the Seeker. Okay. So the Adept is the Knight, and the Page is the Seeker. So we have the Knight of Wands, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. We already knew there was scorpionic energy, and it's coming through with Sagittarius, so that makes sense. We have... It's kind of like I'm blowing a depth charge. Like I'm shooting some kind of missile that goes underwater. I'm trying to blow open the trench, like the Marianas Trench, to see what's inside. Like, what's going on in these thermal vents on the bottom of the ocean? Like, how are these little fucking like, worm things living down there with their iron shells and everything? So, this is an admission of I don't really have as much power as I want to, and this is blow it open and look at the mess. I just heard you've made, but that's not necessarily the case. Unless somebody's talking to themselves. This doesn't have to be two people in opposition. It can be one person who is sort of peacocking, but also feels like they don't have any power and is responsible for everything. And we're dealing with a resolution. And again, it can be either way. It could also be a distorted power dynamic in a romantic relationship. What I'm talking about is that this is a template, and you can see how different situations can fit within it. We're still talking about two different aspects that are sort of polarized from each other, that are trying to cross-heal the situation from their end in the full moon energy. So let's look at this other... Am I doing this right? Yeah, I'm doing Leo. Okay, so I did the crossover, and now we're looking at this Six of Swords in the challenge position. Six of Swords is Mercury in Aquarius. When it's inverted, it tells me scorpionic energy, and I need to go deeper. So this is sort of like the boat is being rocked. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Tip the boat, don't tip the boat over. Rock the boat. So it's like I'm trying to upset the status quo because it hasn't been working. And this is what happens when you try to unravel ancestral trauma, ancestral patterns, you know, how you were taught to be. Like when you grow up and you'll be like, well, this is how I was raised. It's like, well, that may be, but, you know, like my parents, or one of them, like my parent tried to raise me to be a sociopath. And if I had gone with that, I would be a sociopath and a narcissist, but I had to fight against it. It doesn't matter how I was raised. It matters how I choose to be. And sometimes when you upset that apple cart, you end up being the black sheep of the family. But on the other hand, if you want to achieve any kind of growth or functional leadership in your life, sometimes you do have to upset that boat. Tip out all the water and see what kind of scraggly little fish are floating around in there. Electric eels. Okay. So we have Eight of Swords now, inverted. Eight of Swords is, what is it, Saturn in Pisces? Is that it? Yes, it is. So we're seeing more Saturnian energy here, which is not surprising. We have this idea of chronos, time, dealing with task mastering. We're saying that, oh, I just heard Dead on Time by Queen. We're dealing with the time of the full moon is the universal timing to do this. Now, in the Libra Virgo reading, I got a bunch of 11s, but that doesn't necessarily have to happen here. What we're saying is, oh, I just heard with the birds there with the there is a season, turn, turn, turn. If I could turn back time. So it's saying it's time to let go. It's time to open up the wound and let the black goo ooze out of it so you can clean it out and start healing. Now, Eight of Swords. Why was I reading it for Eight of Cups? That's not the right one. Oh, because it's inverted. All right. Now, Eight of Swords is Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and then Gemini is the twins with the duality. It also, Gemini is also the Lover's card, which is a 6, which is that healing card. So we're seeing those background energies. But because the swords are inverted, it gives that little kick of, oh, but if I were the hearts, but I have a different flavor. So what I was saying wasn't invalid. It's just saying that it does carry that background energy of Saturn and Pisces, is to say it is time to get to work, letting go of all these sour emotions, this sort of vendetta and you owe me kind of energy, and to realize that you are in control of letting yourself out of your own mental prison. And we have the Four of Pentacles inverted. This is letting go. It's knowing when to hold and when to fold. Four of Pentacles is typically the Sun in Capricorn. I did reassign it Neptunian energy, but we've got both of those in this reading, so it doesn't really matter. But again, with the more Saturnian energy. Upright, it's the king that's grabbing onto all the gold and saying, my precious. You know, and telling all the nasty hobbitses to get the fuck out of his face and, you know, go plow the fields and kiss my ass and all that. This is inverted. It's I'm understanding what is mine and what isn't, right? I don't need to go get that job that I have to have because I don't actually have to have it. It's not in flow with me. If I wedge myself in there, I'm always going to get splinters. And this is that sort of realization of what is actually for me in the material world. Once I let go of this mental prison, right? I'm breaking down from a -8 to a -4. I'm already moving up into the light. I'm getting out of the red, out of a deficit of energy, out of a static electric shock into something that's more rhythmic, that will eventually put me in flow, right? I'm starting to pick up a signal here on the radio. All right, so Sagittarius, they're part of the hidden underground that's being opened up with the full moon. The Four of Orbs. So we have the exact same card, almost. The Four of Swords. So we're saying we're responding to this 4, but we're also responding to all these swords. The 4 of Swords energy, traditionally Jupiter in Libra, which is Sagittarius again. Although I did reassign it to Neptune, which is fine because we already had Piscean energy. But this is, I'm resting, I'm meditating, I'm taking a nap. It's also a lower vibration of the Hanged Man. This is waking up though, and this is I'm resting. I'm sleeping on it. I'm thinking about it. I'm meditating on the problem. And it's also coming in with this Emperor behind this, lack of leadership. I'm trying to come to some kind of understanding of what's happening around me. And I'm going to take the time to think about what leadership actually is. Nine of Flames inverted. Now this card came out in the Libra Virgo reading, but it was upright. This is something... Oh, the moon in Sagittarius. Okay, that makes sense. The moon inverted gives sun energy, which would give Leo. But we're also dealing with the sun shining so hard on the moon that we can see the whole goddamn side of it that's facing us. It's illuminating this idea of being stuck in one place for a really long time. It's saying, you don't have to be stuck in the same position anymore. You're free to go. Right? We're reassigning you. And it's giving this idea of movement after a long time of waiting for something to happen. And it's also with the 7 and the 9 there at the same time, even though it technically works out to -2, it's giving a tower moment. 7 and 9 is 16. Right? Something is breaking down so that something else can be erected in its place. I was trying to think of a better word, but never mind. And the other is the 3 of Orbs inverted. So we have more swords here. The 3 of Orbs, the 3 of Swords is the, like, everything sucks, the most emotional thought card you could have. It's Saturn in Libra. It's, oh, I just heard what's the worst that could happen. I don't remember who sings that. It's from the 60s. It's the I'm really sad, my heart has been stabbed to death. But here it's coming out of it. It's inverted. It's saying I'm healing my heart from trauma. And it's good to see that with the King of Swords. I mean, if I take -3 and add it to the 14, that gives me 11. That's the universal timing. If I'm saying I'm having the 3 and I'm adding it to the breakdown of this, which is 8, that's giving me the strength or justice that I need. So the idea that Leo energy is saying I'm breaking my family curse by really coming to this mental clarity of what belongs to me and what doesn't. Right? It's like I don't have to be the king of everything. I can just be responsible for what's in flow with me. Sort of the I might have been stuck in a narcissist creating narcissist, or intimidator, interrogator, control drama creating intimidator, controller, control dramas. Intimidator, interrogator creates more. If you have read the Celestine prophecy, you'll find the 4 control dramas, or you could just look it up online. It shows you what they are. So this is coming from this sort of like rawr, like kind of energy, and it's saying, well, I don't have to. And it's sort of like if you have a dog who like barks at everything and is like anxious and snippy, and the way to sort of train them to be calm is to show them that they're not responsible for being the alpha. You're the alpha. And when you say, I'm in charge and I'm calm, then the dog is like, oh, I don't have to be in charge. I can be calm too. This is what's happening with the Leo energy. And the Sagittarius energy is saying, well, I'm thinking about what leadership really means, and I'm starting to overcome this trauma of not being led. Or you can see where this is a dog that's healing from thinking it has to be in charge. And this is kind of also the same thing, but you're looking at it from, it's kind of looking at it from like a before and after, but these are energies that can be carried at the same time because they're all part of the same like metric. You know, it's like, the butt end of the marker is Leo, and the cap end of the marker is Sagittarius, but you can't really, or the writing end of the marker is Sagittarius. And I can carry the marker around with me in my pocket, and I can put a cap on it, but I could put another cap on it and say, oh, just kidding, it's something else. And that's where that mask came in. But the issue, the real thing, what's going on is that these are 2 pieces of the same thing, so that wherever they're spinning around, they're still part of each other. They're working with the similar energy, but they're coming at it from the opposite side. It's saying, I'm healing my need to feel responsible for everything, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm the one whose ass is on the line if this goes tits up, but I don't have the authority to sign any papers changing policy to make it work better. You know, and this is sort of like, I don't care what's going on in the company, just make sure that my dividends are fat. You know, squeeze them for all they've got. And you can see that in this sort of connection that those points are related. And again, like with the dog, they can exist in the same space where it's like, I'm aggressive, but also I'm feeling powerless. And it can exist in the same person. We can see where it's like someone trying to heal this sort of up and down, where it's like, well, this could be me in the past, this is me now, right? When I was growing up, I felt like I had no power because my parents were like, ah, and now that I'm grown up, I didn't even know that I was like, ah, myself, because that's the only pattern I knew. So it's saying like, oh, I'm working on this. But it could also be relationship dynamics outside of a single person. Right? This is like, I was my ex-husband or my ex-wife, or, and again, like I gave a lot of like workplace examples. It feels very like childhood trauma, family curse kind of stuff, but it also feels very office. So I'm not feeling a lot of love relationship energy here, like I was more with the Libra Virgo reading. But again, this template isn't exclusive to any one thing, because it's very easily a romantic relationship. We all know about the codependency that exists, and it's again, it's like if you're healing it on an individual level, it creates healing on the matched harmonic in society. So anyone who's able to complete that kind of healing with the aid of the full moon energy, dredging it up and saying like, you know, what are you waiting for? What's taking so long? You know, how long is it going to be for my harvest to come in? I've been working so hard on dealing with all the things, am I ever going to be like rewarded for being responsible? And some of it is just, understanding what heartbreak and leadership is. So this is actually really heart chakra energy. There's a lot of air in here, so I mean, obviously speaking up for yourself does go into the throat chakra, but what we're dealing with here has a lot more to do with water energy and those deep, long wave vibrations, which is connecting from the heart center out into the universe. So if you want to do some healing here, what you really need to do is focus on the heart chakra, the energy of green, the sort of I'm trying to figure, because the other one was sacral energy with sort of like a sex healing aspect to it, and this is a little different. Like, how do you heal your heart? You forgive yourself for what you couldn't do or what you did too much of. Right? You have to cut yourself some slack, whether you are peacocking leadership or running around like a chicken with your head cut off. So it's giving yourself slack, understanding that you don't have to be the king of everything or, the only employee in a company that should have 600 people. So heart chakra meditation looks like going out in nature, getting some fresh fruit or really fresh vegetables, more like. We want to take a vacation, even if you put some sand on your kitchen floor and sit in a lawn chair and listen to wave sounds with the fan on you. It's like, if you can't have a real vacation, you have to simulate one in your blanket fort so that you're telling the universe, this is the energy that I am trying to project for myself. Those are a couple of suggestions. You can Google heart chakra meditation or music or anything like that, and that should help. All right, we're going to call it there. If you need more assistance, you can get a personal reading. Email me, thecatcamebackatcamp@gmail.com. And you can check out the other 5 readings in this set. And my whole catalog here in my playlists. Take it easy and stay groovy, and we'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for watching. Stay connected with CATtheMinion energy work. Check out my complete suite of goods and services conveniently from my Linktree. linktr.ee/CATtheMinion. Color your way into some relaxation with my coloring books Energy Forms and Draco Forms on Amazon. Get groovy with fashion and home accessories from my Cafe Press or Redbubble shops. Decorate your environment with original art and divination tools from my Etsy shop.